Instagram influencers are considered the celebrities of today's society and a huge marketing tool for the fashion industry. On today's episode, I'm joined by Instagram sensation Alisha Lemay, who shares her incredibly inspiring story of how her 10-year retail career catapulted her to Instagram stardom. I'm so happy to have you here, Alicia, honestly. I really am.
Thank you.
The reason why I was so keen to have you on this podcast is because your page is really authentic, but also I think it's in your bio that you say that you're there to obviously influence, but to engage and inspire. And to inspire is what we want to do. And your story, from what I know of it, little pieces, is very inspirational. So that's why I wanted you to come on and to share your story so that anyone that's listening and our, followers or our audience, can really see what you can make of yourself from starting in retail. So firstly, I wanted to just, celebrate the fact that your platform, your page on Instagram is a really incredible, safe space from what I mentioned before. And the reason I think that is because Instagram is an amazing platform for so many reasons, for businesses, for people to, escape, for so many different things. But with what you've created, you've got a really amazing balance of showing your personality, being really authentic, but also being really, fashiony and showing your passion for fashion and, creating amazing looks and collaborating with incredible brands. So I want to know where it came from. How did it start? Let's go right back to the very beginning.
Okay, first of all, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Literally, I've only ever done retail. I was in retail for 10 years. Started at Topshop. Literally had a Saturday job just when I was at college. I did fashion design at college, and then I did visual merchandising at uni. And the whole time I still had my Saturday job whilst I was at college and at uni. I started work when I was like 15. I've always worked. Started there. And then I remember there was a visual merchandiser at the time in Topshop where I lived when I was doing my Saturday job. And I used to watch her and think, I want to do that. Like, that's actually what I want to do. Her name was Charlene. She probably will never listen to this, but she was probably my biggest inspiration, to be fair.
It's really weird that you say that because there's always one person, I think, in everybody's career or everyone's life that they remember that sort of influenced them, I guess, to pursue something. And that person probably never, ever knows that.
Yeah, she probably don't. There's actually probably two, but I'll mention her later on. Did that. Just doing like normal Saturday girl job. But I was always into fashion, like I always have been. I don't know, but it's a little bit different because when I was very young, I've got two older brothers, so I've always been very tomboyish. I was always football kits, really long hair. Like I was always just basically a tomboy. Always loved fashion. And then went to uni, did my visual merchandising degree. And then literally I finished on the Wednesday, my 3-4 years, whatever it was.
What uni did you go to?
Hertfordshire.
Okay.
And I did 2 days at Hatfield as well. I commuted, I didn't live there. I didn't have like the uni life. And then on the Saturday went to Westfield Stratford had just opened, 2012. And there was a sign up and it just said looking for visual merchandisers. And I was like, I've got my degree now. So like, try.
That's really amazing because obviously with what we do here, right? We deal mainly on the shop floor, but everybody wants to do VM.
Really?
And it's really difficult actually to get a VM job, especially in the luxury world, because they're so, few and far between.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, because everybody wants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think sort of triggered that in you, to do VM rather than sales?
I always did sales anyway. And then I just saw what that lady Charlene was doing, like dressing the mannequins and even just like shop floor layout, where things were put. And I always had an eye for it anyway. And I'd always say to Char, like, oh, why don't you put that there or put this there? And she'd be like, you're just a Saturday girl, like what? And then
saying that now.
Yeah. And then at uni, actually, I just want to quickly mention this. I didn't actually specifically, I learned visual merchandising, but you don't learn it until you're in store. Like all of my visual experience is from the shop, not from uni. I did art history and technical drawing and just like things that weren't really VM related at uni. I'm not saying it was a waste because I don't really, if you go to uni, like I don't know. I don't know if it helped or not. I'm not sure, but it obviously gave me the confidence to be a visual merchandiser and go into that shop and say, can I speak to the manager like of VM because I want to get an interview. And anyway, cut a very long story short, she made me wait 25 minutes, the manager of the visual merchandising. By that time, I was a bit like, oh, she's obviously not coming. Like I went into the fitting room, started trying on clothes. I was actually taking pictures at the time, funnily enough. And then I heard her come to the fitting room. I remember it like it was yesterday. Bearing in mind, this was like, 10 years ago now, Jesus. And she said, is someone looking for a visual merchandising role? And I was like, oh my God, I've got like no shoes on. I was halfway through getting dressed and I was like, let me just go out there and meet her. And I literally remember exactly what she was wearing, everything. And I was like, hi, yeah, me. And she was like, okay, have you got any experience? I was like, no, like, I've literally just finished uni 4 days ago. She was like, all right, come in, have an interview. Anyway, I turned up. Again, this is such a bad thing, but I was 25 minutes late because I just I'd never even like gone to an interview. Like it was just so weird to me. Do you know what I mean? Anyway,
that would be like now. I think I would faint if one of my candidates was 25 minutes late. So how did you turn that around?
That's what I mean. I don't know. It was just, I went in, did the interview and I didn't really click with the lady either. I was a bit like, oh, she doesn't like me. This is a bit weird. Like, I don't think I'm going to do very well. I remember ringing my dad after, and saying, Dad, like, there's no way. Like, I was 25 minutes late. I didn't even know what I was doing. I've got no idea. Anyway, then she rang me back about a week later and was like, hi, is that Alicia? And I said, yeah. She said, oh, okay, do you want to come in for an interview? And I was like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, please. She was like, okay, cool. And then I went back and I did the exact same interview as I did the first time.
Okay.
With the exact same person, did everything exactly the same. Like, I dressed the same wall, I did everything the same. And I thought, it's really weird. Like, why she made me do that interview again? But the second time I was on time. Went away, rang my dad. I said, Dad, I don't really know what's just happened there, but I've done the exact same thing again. And he was like, okay, well, that's weird, but whatever. And then she rang me back a week later and she was like, hi, Liz. She was like, based on your second interview, you've got the job. I was like, oh, okay. And literally to this day, I don't know why the hell I did it 2 times.
That's really, really odd, actually. But it's good because it shows that someone wanted to give you a second chance.
Yeah, and just for the record, cut a long story short, I was a bridesmaid at her wedding. She's literally like my big sister. And she taught me every single thing I know in retail.
She saw something in you and
gave me a second chance.
Yeah, exactly that. And, it just shows that sometimes the first impression isn't always the one that is key. So I think, that's a really good pointer to give to someone. Look, don't be late to your interview.
Yeah, no,
we're not saying that's
late.
cool. It's not fine.
Don't be late.
But, it just shows that if you want something and you're able to get that across, that's really important. That's really, really good. Have you found that, after that, so that was in Stratford then, right? So how did you then evolve? What happened? When did you get to the point where you wanted to move on to the next step?
So we had a really, really good team in Topshop Stratford. There was like 5 of us creatives, and Layla, the lady who I was just telling you about, she left. She went to another brand and still works there actually. She's international for the brand now, so she's done amazing. But the team just fell apart. She got a new manager in and I absolutely hated him. He hated me. We didn't get on and I was just like, I can't do this job. Like, I can't not get on with my manager. And then there was a lady that was working there that I used to get on with on the store team in Stratford, and she moved to River Island. And she obviously we got on really well, and she was like, why don't you come for an interview there? Like, this was in Oxford Circus. And I was like, oh, it's a bit far. Like, I live in Essex. I don't really want to go to Central every day, but okay, cool, I'll do it. Then interviewed there, got a job. Well, I don't know if it was my fault or theirs, but I got the wrong job. I got a job on the shop floor and I was doing like stock take and all sorts of things like that. And it just wasn't, I couldn't be creative, and I am a creative, I always have been. And I couldn't use my skills. I couldn't do anything that I'd been trained to do. So I was like, oh, I don't really like it. Like, what can I do? And she was like, oh, well, why don't you just apply to be a VM here then? I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And then interviewed there, ended up getting that job in head office, but that was based on the other side of London. And I couldn't really do that because it was so far for me to get to. And I said, oh, can I change?
River Island's head office is like in
West Ruislip, I think. Yeah, really the other end of the central line.
Yeah. So you're doing that commute?
I was, yeah.
From Essex?
Yeah.
I mean, I've done from, North London to West London and, from Essex to Central, and that's really far.
Yeah, so I literally used to ride the Central line. I used to get the first train, which was literally like 10 past 5. I used to ride it all the way to the other end. It was like an hour and 45 minutes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, literally. So but that was a head office role. So I was really enjoying it, but I was based in an office and that just wasn't me either. And I thought, I don't really know what to do here because again, I still can't be creative. Ended up then building a really good relationship with the head of visual at River Island. One thing I will just quickly say is I feel like in the retail world, it's about relationships. In everything in life, it's about relationships. And I feel like if you build a relationship with somebody, they will respect you a lot more.
It's networking.
Yeah.
You touched upon a really key point that I think in my day-to-day job as a recruiter, I think I say this probably about 10 times. 99% of the time, people leave their jobs because they're leaving their bosses. So you don't leave your job, you leave your boss. You weren't leaving your job as a VM because you clearly loved it and it was what you were passionate about and you were creative and you liked the company you worked for. But because your then boss left and the new one came in that you weren't happy with and you just didn't click.
Yeah, the whole team fell apart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because you know, things could have, not a shame because you've done so well, but what I'm saying is things could have been different for you because of that reason.
And I do, sorry to interrupt, I do definitely think it's about teamwork. Like if you've got a good team and you all click together, you can obviously, like the final, I can't remember what it was called now. We had a thing like every sort of model store, it used to be called model store. And the final model store we all did together was like the highest rated model store that Topshop had ever seen because of how well we worked together. Like we used to do, let me just quickly go back to what I used to do at Stratford was I used to do night shifts, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday nights, Wednesday night, Friday day. So I used to work literally every single day, but we only ever used to work on a Friday day. And then obviously everything to do with visual is usually overnight because you can't really do it with customers in the shop.
Absolutely.
So it was horrendous. Like it was absolutely horrendous. I used to start at 10 and not drive home till 10. And sometimes the store manager used to come in and be like, oh, does anyone fancy doing a day shift? Because we've got no staff.
No.
We'd be like, we've just dressed this whole shop, like worked relentlessly. We used to have like 10-minute breaks. We used to have our lunch like on the shop floor. It was just, I won't go into the working conditions because I don't want to slag off Topshop, but you know, it wasn't great. But because we had a team and we all loved each other and we all wanted the shop to be the best, we all made it the best.
But that just shows, you know, not only resilience, but great attitude and the teamwork, you know, and it's so important in any job you do, but especially I think in fashion, in the retail world where, you know, no day is the same. But I'm really pleased that you exposed that because a lot of people that are on the shop floor at the moment in a sales capacity speak to me daily and like, we want to go into head office, we want to do VM. And I don't think they actually realise how tough it is. And it's not just, you know, dressing a pretty window and styling an outfit on a mannequin. It's literally recreating a whole display overnight. I remember, I mean, I worked for Chanel for a really long time and I remember the VM team there and how hard they used to work.
And it was awful.
It was literally exactly how you described, overnight, changing windows, but also, you know, it's making sure it's absolutely perfect, immaculate. Yeah. You know, is your wardrobe at home immaculate now?
No.
Colour coordinated,
yes.
is it? Yeah.
Colour coordinated, yes. And honestly, I'm a very chaotic person, but I'm an organised mess. That's what I call myself. Like if you ask me where one item of my clothing is, I'll be able to tell you whether it's in storage 50 miles away from me or under my bed. Like I know exactly where every single item of my clothing is.
I wish I could say the same, but unfortunately, I'm the complete opposite to you.
And I literally do have 2 walk-in wardrobes, off-site and office. Like my clothes are ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. But I am in the process of getting rid of them. I'm working on it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
We're going to go back to your retail journey because there's so much more I want to know. But do you feel that you obviously, you know, it's your job now to have all these different clothes and to, you know, photograph them, etc. But do you feel that working in retail had really, I mean, because I can honestly say this for myself, damaged your perception on the luxury retail market? Like for me, to give you an example of what I mean, because I probably haven't articulated that very well. What I mean is, I worked in retail, luxury retail for a really long time. And I know that you went on to work for Selfridges. But for me, what I found is that I really struggled to buy cheaper things afterwards. To give you an example, I would be around really expensive products regularly. I worked amongst it all day, every day. And then I'd go shopping to somewhere like Bicester Village and I'd see a handbag that I would see in Selfridges that was like massively discounted, but was still like £500 to £600 for example, and I'd be like, oh my God, that's so cheap.
Oh yes,
I need to have it.
I understand
and then I'm
what
thinking,
you're saying now.
Steph, who do you think you are?
Yes,
You're not your client.
Yes.
You can't really afford that. But because of the difference in price, you then change, your whole world changes, and you think that that's actually a really good deal.
I feel like that, not retail, no, because I was always just in high street.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But when I went from Topshop to River Island to Selfridges.
Yeah.
And when I was in Selfridges, so I actually started influencing when I worked in River Island, because I don't know if any of my OGs are here, but my original Instagram name was See It On Me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted people to see it on me before they bought it. When I was working in River Island,
that's a great idea.
Obviously, I used to see the stock first. So if you ever get time, scroll all the way back on my Instagram, the first 100 photos of me in a fitting room, where I used to literally sneak off from my job, put on a new outfit, take a photograph in it, put it on my Instagram, and then go back to work.
Where did that idea come from though?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I actually vaguely remember sitting at dinner one night with my dad, and if he listens to this, he's gonna be like, oh yeah, I told you it was my idea. And I sort of said the idea to him, and he was like, yeah, I think that's amazing. Why do you not just do it every day? Make sure every single day, do it as a thing for anything new that comes in, just put it on.
My brother used to tell me to do that.
Because
when I was working at Chanel, she's like, why don't you just, put the outfit, hold a
handbag.
Yeah,
I advise everyone to do it, really.
I mean, I didn't do it, but I mean, obviously hindsight, it was an amazing idea. It was great.
There's a lot of personal shoppers that do it now as well. A lot of personal shoppers will go into a store, put it on, and a lot, actually, if you look on the Fred styling pages, a lot of styling pages are usually people in store, which is...
But it's a key thing. I mean, I started my retail career in Karen Millen, where we used to have to wear...
I know loads of people that started there.
Yeah, it was a great school. I loved it. I had the best time there, and I loved the clothes. I was passionate about them. And I still really like their stuff. I remember that we used to have to wear their clothes as uniform. And I love selling and I love styling. And I think that's where my passion for retail sort of stayed. But what I used to do, and it's probably similar, but I didn't have a clue about social media, is that I found that if a particular look or item wasn't selling, I used to put it on.
Yeah.
And it used to sell. And that's exactly what influencing is now, essentially. So you had that really good idea then that was a lot more advanced, I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously, you built on that, which is a really great thing. So you started doing that whilst you were at River Island.
Yeah.
We're going back now because we obviously jumped the gun, but you decided to leave River Island because it was too far. The head office role was a ridiculous commute for you. I bet they were gutted to see you leave though.
Well, actually, I didn't leave the brand.
Okay.
I left it and went into store.
Oh, fine. Okay.
And then I was doing VM in store. So I had Marble Arch, Oxford Circus, Bond Street. They were my 3 stores.
The key locations.
Bond Street's gone now. Yeah. 301, that was my babes. But it was a really horrendous store, to be fair.
Why?
Just because it was just so bad. I remember menswear, the ceiling was the same height as the customer. It was a really, really old store. Everything was just run down. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't, you couldn't really put any good displays in it. The windows were just awful. It was just old, I think, basically. And I don't know why they never revamped it. They did revamp Oxford Circus and Marble Arch was a new store.
Yeah.
And then I think the traffic from either end, no one was going into the middle one. And they were too close.
Yeah.
It was literally if you know London, Oxford Circus, Bond Street, Marble Arch, they're all within 5-minute walking distance.
Selfridges in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And that is where I started. I've always loved Selfridges. It's always been, all of my followers know, I spend at least one day a week in there because I just do. I just absolutely love being there. I just love the environment, the people, the merchandising, the display, everything about it. Is just a retail dream.
So was that a manifestation?
Yeah, and I used to walk, because that was my area. I used to have to walk between stores. And I remember every time I used to walk past, I used to think, I want to work there. I have to work there. It's just a part of me. I don't know why, but I do. I just really want to work there.
How did you make it happen?
I don't know how I met Molly. Molly was my manager. How did I do that? I don't know. Can't remember now. But I just got an interview. And then, God forbid any of my River Island managers listen to this, I used to go on my lunch breaks or pretend I had a dentist appointment or something.
River Island, close your ears.
Yeah, to interviews. And I did 6
if I remember correctly, so it was 6, because I remember reading that it was 7 interviews that you did in total. But that's a really long process. So talk me through that, because now, average, interview process is say 3 interviews. Unless you're going for a CEO position where you have to meet everybody. But talk to me about that.
I think because I went for a floor.
Okay.
So I went for third floor, which was like the casual wear of Selfridges, where I don't think Topshop was in there at the time. Not sure, but that felt like
Topshop was on the lower ground floor all those years
ago.
Ago.
That's where I started. Yeah, it was. It
Lower
was there.
ground floor.
When I had my first interview, that's where I
sort
started.
of missed that.
Yeah.
That really contemporary
And there was
downstairs.
like, that. I actually, going back now, I actually had my interviews in there in a little tiny area.
Office.
I can't remember. No, it wasn't office, shop floor.
Oh, it was on the shop floor.
But then obviously you have to be vetted first. You have to. Again, it's so long ago. I don't actually remember it, but I do remember I had 3 practical interviews. So I think I had to dress 10 mannequins on one, and then I had to do a whole creative space. I had to do a night shift interview, a whole shift, for nothing, and another visual one where I had to do a presentation. So I think being a visual, and because I wanted a floor, I didn't just want an area. That's why I think there was only going to be me. Do you know what I mean? That was going to be my floor that I looked after, no one else. So I feel like they had to make sure that I was capable to do all of that. And I don't think you can get that out in one interview, creatively especially.
So you got the job.
Yeah.
What challenges did you face in that
Also, one more thing before we carry on with that. I took a £10,000 pay cut, and I lost my company car, and I lost my travel.
Okay, you really wanted to work for Selfridges. Okay, so this wasn't about an enhancement. It was just literally for you to, you almost took, in a way though, you took that step back in order to take a step forward, because Selfridges,
that's what I needed to do.
Right,
yeah.
so Selfridges is a renowned business. You know, it's not just one brand, and it's taking that, you're elevating from high street to luxury. Look, generally retail is retail. We talk about this a lot in what we do here. There is a clear difference when it comes to service and everything like that in terms of high street and luxury. But the work, the resilience, the hard graft, is the same throughout, and it's clear.
I feel like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but do a lot of people that work in luxury come from high street?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Or hospitality. I think,
really?
there are so many transferable skills. I mean, look, I started in premium, if you like, because Karen Millen was still considered an expensive brand. It was, that sort of mid-range, like what we would say Reese is now.
Yeah.
And then it sort of, I guess it elevates you because you still are able, because of the price point of products, you're still able to have that one-on-one connection with the client to build that rapport.
Yeah.
So it was easier to make that transition into a luxury space. But for VM, I need you to sort of educate me on that, because I wouldn't know, because I've never worked in VM. But coming from high street, which is super fast paced, I'm assuming that the collections are really, 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 often and frequent. You would be constantly changing all the time. Was that the same in Selfridges?
Not as constant, no. And obviously, like you said, stock doesn't come in as fast, luxury. But then I can't really say I worked in luxury. Although Selfridges is a luxury store, like I still did, like for example, a top in River Island would be £30, whereas a top, because I looked after about 40 brands in Selfridges, and the price points were all different. Like you could go up to a £200, £300 top, but I'd still merchandise with £30 tops as well. And that's what I try to do in my job now. I feel like that really helped me, because I still wear expensive clothes, but I'll always wear, not cheap, but high street shoes, or round the other way. Do you know what I mean?
Everybody loves it, to see how you can mix things up.
I think it's unachievable unless you're a millionaire to wear a full Chanel outfit and a Chanel bag. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
unless you've worked there.
Yeah, unless you've worked there, you got a discount. Whereas I feel like a Miss Pap top and a Chanel bag, the difference is obviously drastic.
Yeah.
But if you know how to dress, you can literally wear anything.
You know what I've always said, as long as your shoes and bag is good, that is a key thing for me. I've always felt really, really passionate about that. Look, I'm wearing, not designer shoes today, but my shoe thing it came from that, because I can't remember actually who sort of influenced me, I guess, on that sort of subject. But it was always, your accessory. If your accessories are good, you can dress anything up or down, essentially.
And I genuinely think I have 200 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoes have always been mad to me. I don't know why. I've always been into shoes.
But you always need more, right?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. It's madness. Honestly, I think it is an addiction. I'm obsessed with it. I mean, when I went into retail, the obsession got worse. And I remember when I got my job at Chanel, because in between Karen Millen and Chanel, I worked for Prada. And Chanel was always like my top brand. It was what I was obsessed with. And I always thought, right, okay, if I go to work for them, it will kill the obsession and I'll be fine. I won't be desperate for all their stuff. And it did not work. Yeah, it was the opposite. And even now, obviously.
That's what I was like when I was in Selfridges.
Still obsessed with it.
I think it's because you see it. And I think when you're there, if you're in that environment all the time, like, I don't know if I'm just a bit of a weirdo, but I used to go home and think about things.
Oh, I do all the time.
It's so bad.
I mean, even now, we're in town a lot, checking in on our staff and, meeting our clients, etc. And we could be in Selfridges twice a week, Harrods twice a week, etc. Walking around Sloane Street, Bond Street. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
You walk around and you're trying to concentrate on what your actual job is to do that day and you're distracted constantly. And then you go home and you're getting ready to go out one night. You're like, do you know what I could really do with that pair of shoes? It would change my whole life.
Exactly
what
I just said when I walked in here, like, I know you're wearing orange. I said I want an orange bag. Like, do you know how much I'd like to have an orange bag on?
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
And I did actually see one and I didn't buy it because Selfridges was shutting and my bank card was in the car. But we won't talk about it.
I can go back tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want to know, from your time in Selfridges, okay, you were still influencing, I guess, on the side. You're obviously a hardworking person. You wouldn't get where you are without it, without that work ethic. Because no matter what you do for a living, to get to the extent of where you've got right now, you need to have that strong work ethic and that resilience and that graft. At what point did you think, right, okay, now's the time to throw in the towel. I'm going to do this on my own. Where was that turning point?
My manager left.
Again, okay. So that it wasn't to do with the fact that you'd built your following to a certain level. It was like, okay.
I had 10,000 followers when I left Selfridges. Molly left. She went to Tommy Hilfiger and the whole team fell apart.
Leadership is so important.
Yeah, it really is.
One of my podcasts that I did recently talks about leadership a lot in any type of business. Yeah. And I think it's a really, really important subject.
And I think as independent as I was and my floor was mine and everything was my ideas, I needed her. Like I genuinely did because she was my manager. She did my interviews. And Molly's manager actually left as well. She went to Tommy Hilfiger and then Molly followed her. And then I went to freelance at Tommy Hilfiger because I was like, I can't work here. Like actually physically, we didn't have a manager, didn't have a visual manager for about 6 months. And then I was running third floor and second floor because the second floor boy left. And they just didn't really care. Like, because obviously I was managing it and we was getting the work done. It was like, you don't need a manager. I'm not going to bother getting you a manager.
Because you're obviously capable.
Yeah,
but
I knew
it's not it's not about the fact that you were incapable without Molly. It was the fact that you wanted her there.
Needed her. I didn't want her, needed her. Yeah, definitely.
Because, that's what keeps you going every day, to have that person there. So now obviously you've gone on your own. We'll go back to that in a second of how you started and all of that. I miss working in retail, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I really miss it. And, there's been opportunities where maybe, we've got a sickness with one of our temps and I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to put a black suit
I'll do the
on.
Shift.
Yeah. I sometimes think if my clients didn't know
to be fair,
what
I'd
I
do
look
that.
like.
To be fair, I honestly would do that.
Well, you better leave your number. But what I'm saying is sometimes I think, if my clients didn't know what I look like, I would go and do it and I would really get a buzz out of that because I really miss that interaction.
Me too.
With your role now, with what you're doing, obviously you've got a huge following of people, massive engagement. You're speaking to people all the time. You're going to events regularly. It seems like you're living your best life every single day. Most people that follow you that maybe work in retail now would look at you in your life of what you show of it and think, why on earth would you miss retail? I mean, why would you miss it? What do you miss about it?
I miss human interaction. I miss being creative because I still have so many ideas and I think, this would be good but I don't really have anywhere to put them. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like, again, like I said, I loved working in a team. I loved having people to bounce off of. And that is probably why I do go to Selfridges all the time because...
Do you ever bump into your ex-colleagues and see them?
Yeah, all the time. And my original Topshop team, I am still very good friends with. I'm friends with a lot of the people I've worked with, like Molly, I still speak to her. She works for Runway now. Everyone's still in it. So it's nice. I like to still have relationships with people. And yeah, I just feel like I did actually really, really enjoy my job. I did.
Do you feel that your experience in retail and what you've learned and the life skills that you've learned, I'm really big on that, because I think that thinking about my time in retail, there's so many life skills that I've learned from that. The fact that you have to interact with people
of course.
every single day that you don't necessarily like, potentially, or you may get a really difficult client that you have to deal with. I mean, obviously in VM, that's quite rare that you have to have that interaction. But for me as a sales assistant, I used to meet people and they used to just be in a bad mood and used to get attacked by them. And it was being able to adapt to that, and having to adapt to lots of different situations and think on your feet. And I know I use this word a lot, but be resilient. How much of that do you feel has created the Alisha Lemay now that is the influencer?
Everything.
Really?
Literally every single thing you just said, 100%. I know it sounds so stupid, but I also remember doing a few night shifts and Layla said to me, she first ever started asking me to take pictures of the shop. And I used to be like, Layla, I've just done a 12-hour night shift, mate. Like, I'm not staying and getting up a ladder, taking photos of the shop for you to send off and act like you've done it. Like, what? She'd be like, right, well, you're doing it anyway. And I'd be like, hey, whatever. And I learned how to take a picture from doing that. And now my visual, 100%, I don't know if it's just me, but I see the world different to everyone else. Like, if I take a photo, my friends are like, why have you just taken that photo from what we can all see?
Yeah.
Because I've got something that
You've
she
got
taught me.
a creative mind. That's why. You've got a creative mind, clearly.
And that is from, and I honestly, genuinely remember climbing up, there's a photo of me on the ladder actually, outside the shop in Topshop. And I remember thinking to myself, I hate my job. I don't want to do this. I've dressed this whole wall. Yeah, I want to take a photo of it, but I don't want to make sure it's 5 centimeters from the top and every single hanger's finger space. Like, I ain't got time for this. I don't want to do it. But looking back now, every single thing I do will be finger spaced and everything will be 5 centimeters from the top, because that's just how I learned to take photos. And to this day, obviously, I take photos every second of every minute.
Yeah. What?
And that's just one thing. That's honestly just one thing. Obviously, my job is all to take photos. But yeah, it's definitely dealing with people, meeting people, teamwork. Again, like I said, everything that I do in my day-to-day, my personality, I think everything came from retail.
It's really funny you should say that, because I think that a lot of people that have spent a long time in retail develop confidence. And again, it's going back to that, being able to adapt yourself to certain different people and different situations and being thrown into the deep end every single day to deal with complaints and deal with issues and all of this sort of stuff. Yeah, it does build you, definitely. But when you decided to leave altogether and focus on your Instagram influencer career, what challenges did you face then, or if any? I mean,
well, apart from the fact I worked for a year for not a single penny. I didn't earn a single penny in my first year of influencing.
Wow. So why did you leave? I mean, obviously you left because of your manager, but didn't you think, okay, I need to keep sort of my finger in that pie, I guess, and still do this
and that's
at the
what I
same
did.
time?
That's why I stayed freelance.
Okay.
I did freelance for Tommy Hilfiger, and Molly took me on as like I think I did 1 day a week. It's still in the city because I wanted to be there. I wanted to make sure I was still seeing new things and making sure that I was up to date with all the different fashions and all of that.
So somebody in your situation now, sorry to interrupt you, would almost be like doing some temp work, say with us now, you know, so they could work flexibly but still focus on that at the same time. That is what I did. I basically was a temp.
I basically was. And I said to Selfridges, if you need me for a day, I'll come back. If you need me for this, I'll come back. If you need me for ideas, email me. Like, I was always willing to work for everyone else. And then obviously I just thought, do you know what? I'm sick of working for everyone else. Again, Selfridges was so relentless. Like, Selfridges was tougher than Topshop. Like, it was...
Well, it's the best department store in the world. Their expectations of everyone there are to be the best ever.
Yeah, like Topshop, you could get, not really actually, you couldn't get really away with anything at Topshop. That was Layla. River Island, you'd get away with things because people weren't that specific. Whereas in there, it was like it had to be the best. The Windows team were like exhausted every time I saw the window because they were separate. At the time when I worked there, Windows and in-store were two separate teams. We was in the same office. It was separate, and I used to see him and I used to think, you're not all right, like, you don't look well. Like, you've been here, I swear you was here when I started my shift yesterday. You're like, what is going on? You've been at home
It's
yet?
worth it though. Look at those windows. I
mean,
definitely.
Wow.
Mary Porter started doing windows. If I remember, was it Selfridges or Harvey Nichols, I think. She started in VM. Anyway, it's a story for another day, but yeah.
Yeah, just basically that, just the whole concept of retail itself, I suppose. It's just visual merchandising. I know everyone thinks it's not a lot of people know about it, you know. If you say to someone, I was a VM, they'll be like, unless you're in retail, you don't know.
So you worked a whole year?
For nothing.
Not
a single penny. Yeah, and I was very, very lucky. Again, I used to go to school with a boy who's such a stupid story, whose brother's wife was working in a PR agency. And I used to speak, his name was Jack. I used to speak to him and he used to be like, oh, Lucy works in PR. And I'd be like, oh, let me speak to her. Like, let me just see if I can get a job. And my first job was misguided. And I wasn't paid, obviously. They just sent me some clothes. And I was like, oh, let me just make them look good.
And this was based off the fact that you had 10,000 followers at the time. Okay.
And then obviously I had no access to clothes because I had nothing. I just literally had a mirror at home. And then I used to order like hundreds and hundreds of, not thousands, hundreds of pounds worth of clothes from ASOS.
Send it straight back.
Yeah, put it all on, take photos in the outfits, make sure it was all fine, put a bag over my head so I didn't get makeup on the clothes, take photos in them, put them straight back in, send them straight back, get my money back. Literally done that for about 3 months.
Loads of influencers.
Yeah, what I assume when they start, just to show fashion. I had no money. I couldn't afford to do it. So I was just like, I know what I want to do. I love all these clothes. I can't afford them. So how am I going to do this? Like, the only way I can do it is either if I go into store, which I did start doing, but then that was obviously time consuming because I was driving there, spending my whole days. I used to do it in Lakeside, spending my days in Lakeside and then coming back and being like, right, so I've got 10 outfits, 10 pictures. Now what?
So you used to go to Lakeside, go into the shop,
yeah,
dress up in the fitting room and take your pictures in the fitting room. Okay. It's really amazing.
And then, just started building followers and then...
Because people do this every single day, but the mindset that you had to essentially monetize it and create a career out of it is really amazing because it's something that I do all the time. I mean, I take a picture of my outfit and send it to Charlie, for example, to see if they like it. Everybody does it. But it's having that different business mindset. And that must have come, I'm putting words in your mouth, but that must have come from your time working in retail and doing it when you first started.
Definitely.
Because people are influenced by you. You know, you could see obviously that your interaction with your followers was real and they were influenced essentially in what outfits you would put together. And it's created your amazing platform that you've got now. I mean, when was the light bulb moment? When was it that you were sitting there one day and you thought, wow, I've cracked it?
I still don't think I've cracked it, by the way, but I think my first collaboration with Miss Pat, because I won't go into it too much, but I had management at the time. I got management. Let me just quickly, just before I jump that, I then got an office and I then got a mirror and a wall. I wallpapered a wall with brick wallpaper. And again, if any of my OGs are here, you'll remember that brick wall and the mirror, because I used to just take photos in it. In them outfits, I'd take photos in it. So I was recognisable. People would recognise my pictures.
And that consistency and continuity is obviously a really good thing.
Yeah, I think I did that for about 2 years. Every outfit picture I did, I'd always make sure I went to my office, took a photo and make sure I uploaded it with that background. I got all the right lighting. I did everything I needed to do to make sure people recognised my consistency. And then, I think the moment for me was when I got my first edit with Miss Pat, because I had management and they were very good for me. Don't get me wrong. They were very good for the first part of my career, but they would only really agree to jobs that were going to benefit me. And I knew I liked Miss Pat. I knew I wanted to work with them. And my rates at the time, they couldn't afford through my management, because management obviously had on a 20% fee and they couldn't afford it. And I was like, oh, it's really annoying because I do really want to work with them. My manager said, no, so you're not working with them, like they're not good enough for you, basically. And they had my best interests at heart, because they obviously wanted me to work with bigger brands and they wanted me to I do get it. Looking back now, I do get it, but I wanted to work with them and I'm a very headstrong person. So I went behind their back and worked for them personally.
I think it's not, okay, yes, you did go behind their back, you said it as it is, but when you wanted to be true to who you were and you wanted to be true to, your followers. Yeah, that's right. And if they're a brand that you affiliate yourself with and you are in line with, then you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people listening to this would actually agree with what you did. And I guess it will lead me on to another question. So is there a brand that you work with, obviously aside from Miss Pap, because you've just mentioned them, but is there a brand specifically that you would really like to work with because you feel very passionate about what they stand for? And potentially is that a brand that you feel, you know, I guess represents you as well, so that you would collaborate in that way?
I feel like still to this day, I feel like every brand that I have worked with and every brand I do work with, I actually genuinely wear them. I genuinely believe in them, even down to like my tan, everything I do and advertise, I do genuinely use. I'm not just saying that either. Yeah. And I won't really promote anything I don't promote anything I don't use. Like I don't see the point in it. Like I'm an influencer, and if I have an opinion on something and I want people to benefit from it, that's why I use it.
But that's a really good thing. And that's another thing going back into retail, because when you're selling something to someone, which essentially is what you're doing now, okay, your clients or your followers have to trust you. And I remember years ago when I was on the shop floor, I used to have this conversation a lot with people in my team or even my friends. And, you know, I was always known for being a good salesperson. I could sell anything. And like I said, when I worked at Karen Millen, if there was a dress that I could see wasn't selling, I used to put it on. But if you essentially lie to your following or to your clients about a particular item and they trust you, they're not going to come back. Exactly. And that's the same thing. You know, they won't come back to your page. They maybe will unfollow you because they won't believe in what you're saying again. And I think it's really good. And that goes back to what I said right at the beginning of this, that your page is a real safe space for people to really trust in what you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's really funny because I was watching a podcast quite a while ago, Diary of the CEO, which I'm a big fan of, with Rochelle Humes.
Oh yeah.
And you know, when she started the whole Instagram thing, she mentioned that she sort of, you know, was advised to, you know, whatever collaboration came her way was to take it. And she was laughing about the fact that there were some brands that she just didn't understand what she was doing. But she was like, okay, yes, hi. She actually said, you know, oh, sausages, I'm Rochelle Humes. It's, you know, just because she was a name and she was being paid for it. So a lot of people start that way. I know a lot of the, you know, reality TV stars do all of that. And it's because they're trying to latch on to their current following and monetize it.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. It's money, yeah.
So with what you've done, it's really nice to see that you've created an amazing platform and been completely authentic right the way through. I guess to wrap this up, you know, it's really amazing to see somebody like yourself that has come from the shop floor and spent such a long time in retail and all of the skill set that you've gained and how you've built this incredible career now. The last question really that I'd like to ask you, and I'm sure everybody listening wants to know, is what advice would you give someone now? If there's, you know, an 18-year-old on the shop floor now in Selfridges thinking, where am I going to go from here? What advice would you give?
I think I don't know, it's quite easy for me to say, but it would just be to obviously stay true to yourself and just enjoy it. Because I feel like you get what you give. Like if you're happy and you're open to experiences and you're open to learn, and if someone wants to help you, take it and really, like, I don't want to say use people, because I don't think using people is the right word, but get what you can out of people.
Experiences.
Yeah, like if you've got a really amazing manager that I know. I also remember in Selfridges there was a lady called Yona. She actually still works there, and I remember on one of my shifts,
I know her.
I remember her trotting around the shop floor and I thought, wow, she's unbelievable.
It's funny because I met Yona recently and I said exactly the same thing to her. And I really hope she listens to
her presence in my mind. I still remember it. She's tiny. I remember exactly. And I used to think, who is that woman? And it turns out, she's like CEO of the store now. And I just think if you can get anything from somebody in terms of energy, experience, opportunity, just take it and manifest it and just do what you can with it to excel yourself.
Honestly, it's the best advice you could give. So thank you very, very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here, and your story is really inspiring. And I wish you all the best with what you do going forward. And, you know, you're just amazing. So thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure. And I honestly feel this has been the most natural conversation. So
you didn't even look at that.
Thank you. No, I didn't. Didn't need to, but thank you, Alicia. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks
so much.
Thanks.